how does the grading all work?
That's the grading jiu-jitsu it's an ongoing thing. I think it's been progressing a lot, and it used to be just your instructor gives you a belt whenever he feels like. It still is a little bit like that, but I've grew up my whole life like this. Whenever my instructor felt like giving me a belt, I will get a belt. I never knew when was going to happen, or what did I need to do more to get my next belt. I just needed to go there and train, and one day maybe it would happen.
Without a doubt, but what I'm saying is like, say to move on to the next belt, would I need to, as a professor, would I need to, for instance, spend 200 hours to be eligible to get the new belt? Or would it be that I have to be in the competition team? Or would it be, because sometimes you also see, at the end of fights, the coach will come into the cage and he'll grant whoever that fighter was with their new belt. Like, is it, that I completed a certain move in competition and that grants a belt? Like, how does it all work? Yeah,
so as I was saying, there is that side, how it was and how it happened to me my whole life. And then in more recent years, the International Federation has created a standard, like for each belt, a minimum time for each belt. So, I think from white to blue is like a year and a half. And then it's on average 2 years per belt, so you can get from white to black, I think in about 6.5 years minimum. So this is a standard. For black belts, the grading is different. I'll get to that, in the end. But in saying that, we are still our criteria prevails on how we want to give belts to our students. So we can decide that, on daily basis how we do it. I've always done by surprise without telling people much about it. What do we look for, or what do I look for? It's not only level, like you said, you got to be in the competition team and be a really great competitor. It depends. Is that what you are? I try to analyze each person individually. If I have a competitor, a student that is a high-level competitor, I will not award him his next belt unless I feel he is ready for it. He completed everything he could in his current belt, because a good way of ruining the career of a competitor is promoting him too early, because then he is at the bottom of the next belt and he's got to build it up all again. So usually you promote them when they are at the very top. So when he gets to the next belt, he's already sits there comfortably and he's ready to compete. But there are also other cases. Let's say that guy that trains 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, and he works full time. He's got a family, and he loves jiu-jitsu. He uses all his spare time for jiu-jitsu, but he's now 48. Can I put him in the same category of the 22-year-old full-time jiu-jitsu competitor? Definitely not. I'll have to have a different criteria. Then that's when some gyms adopted the attendance, the minimum attendance, or the gradings as perform some techniques and you get your belt. I'm not 100% in favor of that. I understand where they are coming from. They're trying to create a standard. So if you perform these 5 techniques and you attended 40 classes, you are ready for your next belt or for your next stripe on your belt. I am in these days doing something in between. I created, like in the legacy system now, we have a minimum attendance to make sure that people are participating in classes, before they get a next belt. Doesn't mean that completing the minimum time they will get a belt or a stripe, but we want to make sure, that you are attending the minimum. That's purely because of the number of students we have. Sometimes it's difficult to track exactly how much someone is training, and they might train in different classes with different instructors, so we need to be able to track them. The grading just by performing a few techniques, I feel, is very limited, because especially with competitors, some guys will be super good at their own game, and you cannot judge them specifically on that. But the reason why I decided to bring more and more towards giving I was never about giving the student any knowledge of when he was going to get graded and what he needed to do. As if the philosophy I grew up in is like, you train to get better, you train to improve your jiu-jitsu, not for the next belt, not for the next grading. But in these days, people need some I think we need more motivation than we needed before. I think everything, it's faster. Everything, you need a reward straight away. That's why, like people keep the grading is just an example. It's a mirror of real life. I feel people that are trying to, know when they're gonna get graded and know when the next thing will happen. If they do this, when they're gonna get the return. And what convinced me to start looking more towards this side was a video I was watching of someone explaining, Professor Fabio Gurgel actually from Alliance, explaining like, how would you feel if you went to university, you went to do a law degree, and you were told, look, we don't know how long it's going to take or if you're going to complete, and you will not know what you need to do to complete. Just go and study every day, and one day you might become a lawyer. That made me think, yeah, actually, it makes sense. I don't think like that about jiu-jitsu, but somewhere in between, I think it's where we should be, where, we give them the tools to know, like, all right, if I do more of this, I'm moving towards my next belt, I'm moving towards improving. Or if I attend this many classes, I am in the right track. I'm doing the minimum necessary. Of course, it doesn't mean if I do the minimum, I will get it. But we give people more guidance, and I don't see any problems with that.